Support WrestleTalk.
Jey Uso rejects the Judgment Day, or perhaps the Judgment Day is no more.
A couple of weeks now, I've given you a lot of props and you've deserved them because those puns were really good. Like you did a bit about Bryan Danielson and that he's on his final countdown. You've done very well. That one, I'd like you to apologize to the people immediately.
The Judgment Day is no more. I am Luke Owen, D-A-D. I'm joined by your James that Jampion.
Stop it!
The Professor, the Truth, Dan Layton. And welcome to the WrestleTalk Podcast review of Monday Night Raw. Please do press the subscribe button if this is your first time here. And give us a little thumbs up as well. Leave a comment down below if you're watching this on VOD. But if you are watching live, like so many cool people are currently, then get in your alpha chats to WrestleTalk.com/support because we will be reading out every single one of them above the $5 amount. I was doing so well.
You don't know any.
Tripped over just one word right there. Apologies that we went slightly late today.
Yes.
Went live a little bit late.
A little bit late. Just to try and make the show better for you.
Well, yeah, it's two reasons. Number one, Producer Rich is monitoring our sound to make sure that it works fine. And number two, I was playing speedrunners on my lunch break and I forgot to set up the stream.
Yes, that does happen.
Yeah, so we came down here with about 5 minutes to go, and that's when Producer Rich came in to fix the audio.
Yeah.
So, oops. Anyway, well, we're live now, and that's the main thing. And speaking of the main thing, on Monday Night Raw last night, the main thing driving that show was the culmination of this few-week-long storyline now of will Jey Uso join the Judgment Day? Judgment Day have been trying to recruit Jey Uso since he moved over to Monday Night Raw. Finn Balor was doing lots of pleading with him last week, going, "Oi, come here to me," and trying to lure him in. Dom was saying I know what it's like to be from a broken family. Yeah. Rhea Ripley, I think, was offering some sort of sexual favor.
There was an insinuation.
That's what Finn was insinuating last week. And on this show, Damian Priest was like, "Hey, look, some of the guys want to bring Jimmy in, but me, I've been backing for Jey Uso to join the Judgment Day. But I need your answer by the end of the night." And we got that answer.
We did.
Which was a few super kicks to the face of the Judgment Day during a match between Jey Uso and Drew McIntyre.
It's a veritable super kick party.
And some might say.
Yeah.
And then he turned into a Claymore and Drew McIntyre picked up the win. Which I thought it was a very fine little main event. That was a good main event. I really liked its finish, though, in terms of paying off the storyline they've been doing on for the past few weeks.
Yes, I agree completely. There was a really, really good match on this show that kind of put a lot of the others into sort of... there's a word I came up with on Collision where I watched a routine. It's I call it routine. There's a routine wrestling match there. Standard does the job. This main event was kind of routine, and it was far more about the story that they were selling us on commentary. There was almost action that was happening that was perfectly good action, really enjoyable, while we were thinking about the story, and they were really selling us this whole business about why Drew McIntyre in particular might not have any affection for Jey Uso. And in hindsight, I've seen a clip that he posted to his Twitter. I don't know if you've seen this. So the theme of the Usos day one-ish is just the bit from SmackDown where they're absolutely battering Drew with the chairs, with the stairs, where they really take him out and they put Roman on top of him, sat on him. It's kind of be like, this is what Jey did. Because I think so many months hence, especially now that Jey has turned on the bloodline, we've forgotten that it's not just that they cost them a match. They were very much Roman's lackeys doing things. So the people on the Raw roster have a very good reason to not want Jey around.
I mean, Kevin Owens at the start of this show said as much. He and Sammy and Cody had a segment, an in-ring promo, where he was like, look, are we all just going to pretend that if it wasn't for Jey, Sammy would be the Universal Champion? If it wasn't for Jey, Cody should have won at WrestleMania. If it wasn't for Jey, I'd have beaten Roman 15 times by now. Again, and Drew's got the same grievances. Matt Riddle, when he was on the show a couple of weeks back, had those same grievances. Jey and Jimmy cost him matches as well.
And what was really interesting about specifically Wade Barrett in this show was that they were doing two things at the same time. And this is why I think this main event was so satisfying, was that on the one side, they had the Jey, people mistrusting Jey being involved thing, and whether or not he would join the Judgment Day, which we'll get to. And on the other side of this main event, they also had Wade explaining that one of the reasons that Drew was so anti-Jey is that he cost him the title in front of a live crowd. So he won the live crowd and carried the belt during the pandemic. No people there, and then suddenly the people come back, and all the big stars come back in. The big stars come back and want to have their names chanted. So they'll take the they'll take the credit, and Drew gets nothing. And Drew was supposed to have his moment, and I think we all believed, didn't we? Lol, in particular.
Yes, yeah. For those of you who don't know, I did try and use my jam in the jar to win at Clash of the Castle last year, predicting that Drew McIntyre would win. And he didn't.
Because we all believed in the room that it was going to happen. Like, I think a lot of us thought this is a really big show, a big moment.
When he hit that Claymore, before Solo debuted and Solo pulls the referee or Drew out of the ring, I think we all thought, that's it.
Right. I know. So it wasn't just a trifling, like, retcon. It was a very real thing that he was saying. He cost him this massive moment in front of his home country crowd.
Not really, though.
Home country's country crowd.
Yes.
Home nations. Yeah, nations crowd. Point being, these two things are happening in parallel. And I thought they were both really effective. So then when you do get the moment that Jey fully rejects the Judgment Day, and then the Judgment Day start doing the beatdown, Drew gets his win, Drew's leaving the building, and then he has that moment of, do I go and save him?
It's the Jericho Edge moment with the Nexus.
Refresh me. Refresh me.
Oh, I'll refresh you down. when Jericho and Edge were walking away from a Nexus beatdown just before SummerSlam 2010, and then they sort of stop, and then one of them puts their hands on the other shoulder, and they look at each other and go, yeah, and they run back to make the save.
Right.
Drew had that moment where he was sort of walking up the ramp. I don't need to get involved in this. I don't like Jey Uso, so him getting beaten down by Judgment Day is none of my business. If anything, I actually like this business. But he stops, and the inner good of Drew McIntyre was like, no, I should go back and save him.
There was conflict on his face.
There was conflict, and I thought Drew sold that very well. But he didn't need to make a decision in the end because Cody Rhodes, the savior of America, ran down instead, and Homelander decided to get his oar in, and he made the save.
White meat babyface Cody Rhodes, who is so old school that he doesn't leave the building even though his match was on first. He waits till the main event is over.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. He was probably watching the monitors. He
Almost
was
certainly.
Give everyone their notes.
Good, and then to give claps and shake everybody's hand before he leaves. Good old Cody Rhodes.
Well,
can rely on him.
You've got to remember that he brought Jey Uso across to Raw.
Yes.
For the fans.
For the fans, for the people. The people love him. The people want it.
Yeah.
People deserve second chances. Best in the world. There were a couple of those references.
There were a couple
through the course of the show. We'll get to
it.
Yeah. But yeah, so I thought the idea that he's standing there, and like you say, Drew selling it really well. A great performance from Drew. This idea that he might, he's a person getting beaten up, and I have my issues with the Judgment Day as well. Like, I shouldn't just let him get beaten up, but also he's a twat. I don't really want. Sorry, I said a bad word.
He just said it correctly.
But there you go. So yeah. I really, really liked the segment, and then that choice being taken out of his hand. He still didn't get involved. He still left Cody to clear the ring.
It's a nice little burn for Drew.
Yes.
Because I've been really enjoying this little slow heel turn for him. I've been very much enjoying it. And actually, as I said, I really enjoyed this Jey storyline. I think the Jey storyline has been some of the best stuff that's been on Raw for the past few weeks. A show that really has felt like it's been spinning its wheels for the last couple of months. This has felt like, a brand new face coming in has felt quite refreshing to it. With that said, and I apologize now as the negative hat might be. I'll take off positive cap and put on negative hat if I may. I have got a real worry, and I mean, maybe you can look at this as I'm being negative here. It's just my genuine concern. We're leading to a War Games match of Cody, Sammy, Kevin, and Jey versus the Judgment Day. On paper, that is a great idea because think of all of what you can play off with War Games last year with Kevin, Sammy, and Jey. Yeah. Like, that is a genius and brilliant idea, if I do say so myself. And it makes sense. You've got 4 of them. You've got 4 lads on the Judgment Day. You can do a 4-on-4.
You're including JD.
You can do a 4-on-4 War Games match for Survivor Series. My issue and my worry with that is that it's 2 months away. And I have watched Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn do nothing on Raw since WrestleMania but have matches and segments with the Judgment Day. Moreover, I've seen Cody Rhodes have lots of matches with the Judgment Day. He took a slight sabbatical when he was feuding with Brock, but when he was not feuding with Brock for those month and a half, he was feuding with in Judgment Day.
Yeah.
And then he's just been had a match with Dom on this show. And I said to you a few weeks back, I've got a real worry we're going to see a lot of Jey versus members of the Bloodline for the next few weeks, months.
The Judgment Day.
Judgment Day. Sorry, yes, with that. We're going to basically watch Jey versus Finn.
Yeah.
Jey versus Priest.
Yeah.
Jey tagging with Sammy to take on Finn and Priest.
Yeah.
And Dom and this and the other. And I really feel like we're going to get a lot more of Kevin and Sammy versus the Judgment Day. And I've had my fill of it now.
I think that's fair because as we've done the data, we've done the research, and we've shown how often this has happened over the past.
And guess what? They already announced it for next week.
There you go. So
because
another one.
it's Kevin and Sammy versus the Judgment Day for next week. So I'm not barking up a mad trend.
You aren't at all, and I think you're probably right because my instinct is that it goes there as well. I will, however, just present to you an alternative. If Mrs. O is watching, apologies. Worldview for you. Where
she won't be watching.
I'm aware of myself when I say this, and I'm very like I hate that I've become the Ollie's just got on a plane for a holiday, so I've sat in his chair, and something about that chair, maybe the position of it latitudinally and longitudinally, has affected my brain.
Longitudinal, dude.
What's that?
That's a reference to a Christmas special we did a few years back during lockdown.
I wasn't there.
No, you weren't there.
Alas.
You should watch it. That was really good.
Well, I will, so that I can understand that one reference. So yes, apologies for I can hear myself and I know what I'm doing and the collective groan that I'm going to hear from everybody watching and joining us on the chat. But imagine, if you will, a War Games match at Survivor Series.
Yes, I can.
With four. Let's say all four, including JD McDonough, members of the Judgment Day.
Mm-hmm.
And Jimmy Uso.
Oh, so a 5-on-5.
Against Cody, Sammy and Kevin, Jey. So you've got your Jimmy and Jey clash there, which you can then use as a way to build towards their WrestleMania contest that we all believe is going to happen without having to actually do that program yet. Because we have had on SmackDown, by virtue of them having the belts, they can be on both brands. Judgment Day being involved. And as you said, JD, what's his face? Damian Priest was like, I was mates with Jimmy. You know, they've got the back and forth of favors, whatever. Maybe if JD McDonough isn't there, you have Solo in the match as well. That leaves a fifth spot open in the good guys team, and the show is taking place in Chicago. And we've had a few second chance best in the worlds. What if CM Punk comes back to join the good guys team to take on that War Games match? Does that make you want to see it any more or any less?
On paper, yes.
There you go.
It absolutely does. Punk going back to WWE, I think, sounds like wonderful chaos.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
And I often live for the chaos,
especially because if we have to now, you live for the chaos, I live for the chaos. We have to sit through 2 months of the same Judgment Day, Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens thing. Is that worth the Chicago pop chaos?
Yes and no.
Right.
I will yes and no you on that one. Because yes, it absolutely is worth it because Punk back at Survivor Series. Like, we're in pure fancy booking territory.
CM Punk!
Because
that's my Ollie impression.
The more likelihood is it's 4-on-4.
Yeah, right. No, sure.
But if we're going into your worldview and your big fantasy booking, is it worth it? Yes. But that's only like once I get there.
Right.
It will be like, oh, that journey, that 8-hour drive probably was worth it in the end because I'm looking at a very pretty lake.
Right.
But that does not negate that I had to go through 8 hours of traffic jams to get to said lake.
That's a really good analogy. Yeah, that's very true.
Because it's the Bianca Belair versus Sasha Banks is one of the best WrestleMania main events of all time.
Criping.
I can go back and watch that match and it is pure magic.
Yeah.
That does not stop that I had to go through 8 weeks of bad TV to get there.
Yeah.
Like that was still 8 wasted weeks of my life watching bad storylines being done on television.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, and obviously we don't know this for certain. I've had my fill of Judgment Day versus Owens and Zayn or combinations thereof.
I completely agree with you because it happened at the start of the show again and I was like, oh, more? Okay. And then they come and make the save. Okay. And I think about when we're doing the lists and when we're doing all the other things, and I was talking about how this is the most mid time of the year. Like, we just got Payback is out the way, Fastlane's on the way.
Fastlane's in like 2 weeks.
Fastlane's in 2 weeks.
And can you, aside from Rollins and Nakamura,
Gunther, Ciampa probably will be on there.
Maybe.
And EO and Asuka. Oh, no, that's next week on SmackDown, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's what I mean. It's like, as a pay-per-view is in 2 weeks' time.
I don't know.
This is the point. What direction we're heading.
They don't really bother at this time. Because remember last year, like there was that great run of... Triple H has had a number of good pay-per-views. I think you can't take that away from him in his time as head of...
way more good than he has had bad.
One of the bad was the October pay-per-view. It was Extreme Rules. And I remember watching it and being like, am I wrong or is this crap? And like, Pete replied, oh, it isn't just you. Yeah. And I was like, there you go. Okay, fine. So it was something we were really excited about, in large part because we had the Bray Wyatt tease. But also, yeah, that was one of the examples of it just being a bit mid. And then there was the Logan Paul thing, which was a nice diversion, I suppose. But generally speaking, wasn't on.
Yeah, we feel like we're on a little bit of we're on pause until the Saudi show.
And the same thing happened from November through to the beginning of the Royal Rumble. Like this yeah, that's true, because the taint of the year for a reason.
Because we were like, oh man, can you imagine what a Triple H booked TV show is going to be? He's got 2 months to book a Royal Rumble, and what he did was wait till the last 3 weeks to book a Royal Rumble show, which meant we just had 8-7 weeks of nothing telly.
And we talk about it in terms of like the main events and the card will be great, so just be happy with it kind of thing. And it's like, sure. And at the very least, they do put things in places, even if it is a thing that I've seen already. Like I say this as a person who finishes Friends and goes back to watch Friends again, but that's 10 years worth of Friends. There's a bit of difference between each season.
You want to enjoy that Rachel Joey dynamic.
I skip past that bit.
Come on.
Outrageous.
A fun few episodes, that.
No, they made Rachel stupid to match Joey, and that was a absolute betrayal of that character.
I disagree.
Nope.
I mean, this is a topic for another podcast. When you and
I don't understand. We do this every week.
You and I start Friends talk.
Happily.
I would absolutely would.
And then we can do Frasier talk.
Oh, is the spin-off? That's the Patreon exclusive.
Well, we finish Friends, we do Frasier, then we can do Will and Grace. Point being, there's people watch things over and over again.
Should we do that as a poll? Was Rachel and Joey actually good?
Sure. Well, it was bad.
Mother, if you can hear it, can we do? We need to get the crucial data here. Was Rachel and Joey actually good? Yes or no?
The answer is objectively no. However,
it's objectively yes.
No, it's not true. But point being, people watch things over and over again. It's just different when we're watching this for what would be, by the time we get to end of November Survivor Series, about 6 months. April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November. Well, that's upsetting, isn't it? Goodness gracious, you could hatch a baby in that time. So yeah, I like the War Games match. I just don't want to watch it.
Well, okay.
Till then.
Yeah, I like this. Good, the poll is.
This is absolute nonsense.
I like this Jey Uso storyline. I feel like Jey has actually Jey feels like has brought something new to Raw because he's a new face and there's like a bunch of new people. Jey versus Drew as the main event of the show was like, that's a big thumbs up for me because that's a new main event for this show. So that's a big old thumbs up for me. Becky with the NXT Women's Championship. Ooh. Not a great start for it on this episode of Raw, but we'll get that. There. But it's still
fresh.
It's fresh and it's a thumbs up from me. But there is just this sort of oppressive Sammy, KO, and Judgment Day thing. There's just like, even though Jey is a new face within the storyline, I don't need to see if Sammy and Kev had done a different feud after Mania, I think I would have been much more fine with this.
Yeah.
But they just feuded with the Bloodline again for Backlash when Roman wasn't there, and they were just like, let's just do WrestleMania.
And then Night of Champions.
And then it was Night of Champions, they were with the Bloodline there as well. But then since the Bloodline, all they've done is feud with the Judgment Day. And it has been months and months and months. And we go back to that Cody Brock thing. I like the Cody Brock matches. I particularly like their SummerSlam match. And I liked the finale of their story. But that does not negate that we had to watch 4 months of those two do absolutely nothing on telly. And when I say nothing, the same angle every couple of weeks.
Unless we've been naive as anything and actually the writers have been on strike this whole time. And so Triple H just did, do that again, because we haven't got any people in to actually give us some storylines. So, but it does beg the question, what are you doing week to week coming up with things when you just do this all the time?
Yeah.
And to be clear, I'm putting over this story because I think we both really like
it.
The direction that Jey has brought to it. Really especially like the fact that Judgment Day haven't been negging him. They've just kind of allowed it. They've sort of tried to appeal to him, kind of thing. Like that very much. It just is, if I have to hear Cody Rhodes' music and then Sami Zayn's music,
Also,
again.
is it just me or have they dropped that trade storyline?
I did think about that. I did think that they've dropped the trade storyline, or maybe
they haven't mentioned it for 2 weeks now.
No, and this one apparently there were changes to this episode of Raw as well, so that all of that business of Vince's last week in charge are way out the window. But also, possible that they're just putting it on pause for a bit, and then in the end, it's like Cody banked the trade. Or
I think it happens. 3 count's going to be released at the end of this week. I recorded it today. I think it's going to happen in December. I think he'll do the War Games thing, and then we'll announce, or maybe in January.
But by January, you might as well just win the Royal Rumble again, and then you can challenge for whatever you want.
Or maybe. Anyway, let's get into your Ultra Chats. Sorry. Your alpha chat about this episode of Monday Night Raw while you all vote in our very important poll, which is not looking very good in my favor currently.
Because it was stupid storyline.
But Valab Mamadapudi kicks us off here. He's been a member for 28 months in a row, can you believe? Who just says, are we really going to do the Judgment Day versus Team Can't Beat Roman in War Games?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of is that. Although they all could have beaten Roman, is the thing. Like, you are right, they didn't beat Roman, ultimately that's what matters. But every single one of them had a visual pin. Every single one of them was nearly there, and that's the crucial point. They could have. Even Jey was ultimately betrayed from beating Roman.
Yeah.
So I think that's I can't help it. That's interesting. We can talk about that in the writer's room, whatever. But yes, yeah.
Speedy here says, Wade Barrett did a good job on commentary explaining how both Jey and Jimmy are both alone for the first time, which is why Jimmy ran back to the bloodline when he realized nobody respects or likes him. Meanwhile, Jey is standing on his own 2 feet.
Yeah, Wade Barrett did a really good job this week of selling the story.
I've got one issue with Wade
Go
Barrett,
ahead.
which is that everyone is the best something.
Oh, Ricochet is the greatest high flyer of all time.
So on this show, during Bronson Reed's match, he was just like, I don't think there's anyone on this roster that is as big as this man or is as agile as this man. I'm like, did you watch
20 minutes ago
the Ivar match that happened not an hour earlier in the
I thought
broadcast.
that too. Yeah.
But he had the same problem with Raquel Gonzalez. It was like, I don't think there's anyone in that locker room that can match the power of Raquel Gonzalez. And it's like, I was like, right, Rhea Ripley, the world's champion. Like, well, apart from Rhea Ripley, of course.
Oh, Nia Jax is here now.
Yeah, Nia Jax. I don't know if there's anyone who can match the sheer brutality of Nia Jax in that ring.
Yeah, that is a fair charge against Wade Barrett. We were having this conversation upstairs about what makes a good commentator and what doesn't, and a large part of it. So peeling back behind the scenes a little bit, I was watching a match for a certain friend of mine's project, and the commentators I didn't know.
Company time?
Friend of mine being Mark Marcus, and thank you very much on company time. I'm trying to keep kayfabe alive over here.
Sorry,
come on. And it was it was a match where it was a championship match, and halfway through the match, I didn't know who the champion was because the commentators weren't doing a good enough job, I thought. And then we were having the conversation about what makes you good, and it's the tone of voice, it's the selling it. Watching a couple of No Mercy matches for the list last week, I was realizing at peak JR, the rise and fall, the storytelling that he was able to do was so incredible. Excalibur, I think, does a fantastic job. Kevin Kelly. Nigel McGuinness on Collision this week played a blinder. Absolutely having the time of his life.
He's my favorite color commentator.
He's doing really well. I think that's a fair criticism of Wade Barrett, but I really do think Wade did a fantastic job in the main event, so I want to put them over. And oh my god, at least it ain't KP. God love KP.
Smiling politely, Kevin Patrick. I think Wade and Cole are very good. I think Wade has got a bit of an uphill struggle in his hand because he is commentating with a soundboard. And just to lean over and just press this.
Very best high flyer in the world.
Former WWE champion. The greatest of all time. We're going to get into... Actually, I'm going to read a couple more chats. Ben Vlerick here says, Raw is red, SmackDown is blue. Zayn and Owens will never stop feuding with the Judgment Day, and it seems Cody too. It isn't going to War Games, is it? Which is another 2 to 3 months away. Apparently, Cody can't finish any stories. Indeed, WWE stories don't end.
Well, that's what Triple H said, wasn't it? It's like
the
stories, they don't finish
here.
Don't end. Which is factually incorrect, but okay.
Andy Madrid here says, Mania 20 main evented with a triple threat with 2 close people and an outsider. Mania 30 was a main event with 2 close people and an outsider. Mania 40 could be 2 close people and an outsider. Roman, Rock, and Cody. It's like poetry. It rhymes, said George Lucas.
I'd never thought of that. I also don't think they have.
No, that is a happy accident.
But well spotted. Like that. Well, good for you.
But I I don't think I want to see a Roman Rock Cody triple threat.
No, I don't mind.
That is up to them to change my mind, though, and I think they
That's
can
true.
do. But if you were to give me two options, do I want to see, or three options? Do I want to see Roman Rock? Do I want to see Roman Cody? Do I want to see a triple threat? I'm picking Roman Cody because that's the story you started. Like I don't want to Game of Thrones this.
Right. How dare you? First of all, new poll. Was the Game of Thrones ending good? No.
I think I might win that one.
I said that if I want to see Roman Rock at Mania, I'll happily watch it because I'm not stupid. But I don't want the title anywhere near it. Yeah. Like you'd have to. For me, it's like okay, take the title off Roman, and where do you do it? My head. Cody wins it in Chicago because he's or Royal Rumble if you want that big stadium feel, but keep the belt away from The Rock.
Right, we're going to get into the main show itself, but before we do, we're just going to give a quick shout out. We've got a guest in the room.
We do
today,
an exam invigilator.
Yeah. New starter has joined us today. Ben, do you want to just come over here and just say hello to the fine people? Everyone, this is Ben.
Hi, fine people.
Ben, you might want to come in a little bit more.
I'll scooch in.
Yeah, just say hello.
Hi, everyone.
Ben, what do you do?
I am a production coordinator, so I
Into the microphone if you wouldn't mind.
I coordinate production. Obviously, I don't host. Hence they're not knowing what to do. I coordinate production. I send emails and all that jazz.
Ben, everyone. Ben, what's your one wrestling fact?
I know that in 1998, Undertaker threw Mankind off of Hell in a Cell, and he fell 16 feet into the announcer's table.
He did.
What do you make of the Rachel Joey storyline from Friends?
Oh, man, like, wasn't necessary.
Thank you.
Wasn't necessary. Right. If they had done it maybe 2 seasons earlier, it might have been better.
No, Ben, you're fired. Get out of here.
Way to piss
Thank
us,
you, Ben.
Way to piss us both off.
Ben, everyone.
Ben.
Someone said it's like Luke, but with hair. Joe will take. Ben's a handsome man. Anyway, we're going to kick things off like this show did with Cody Rhodes burying Dominic Mysterio.
He absolutely did do that.
So Cody was going to cut his promo beforehand, seemingly to go off what he was going to say last week before Dominic interrupted. Dominic came out to talk about Jey Uso again. Cody kind of insinuated that Rhea Ripley's going to break up with Dominic Mysterio. Let's not go down that path. They're too good of a pairing together. And then they had a match. And Cody just won.
Yeah.
2 minutes and 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Dominic Mysterio was then later advertised for a big North American Championship match for next week's show against Dragon Lee.
It's Cody Rhodes, isn't it? I don't care.
Here's the thing. I said this in the edited review. I know some people got like a really upset about this because, well, yeah, it's a burial of the North American title. It's not a great way to promote the match.
It's Dominic Mysterio.
But like, those 2 points are correct. This does nothing for the North American Championship. This does nothing for their championship match next week. This very much makes it look like a low secondary belt that no one needs to care about. However, Dominic's gimmick is he's a joke.
Yeah.
And Dominic's gimmick is he's not very good. Cody's gimmick is that he is a star that wins all of the time. Yeah. So, of course, he's going to win in 2 minutes. I would say you should Matthew Broderick's War Games this. The only answer is to not play. And
what?
You never seen War Games?
I think I've been really confused.
So War Games was a 1983 movie with Matthew Broderick.
Oh, okay. No, I haven't seen it.
And he's like a computer hacker.
Right.
Or like coder and programmer and stuff.
Gotcha.
In school. And he comes up with this brilliant system to play chess against.
Yeah.
But it sort of gets into, and it basically starts playing actual World War based on chess and stuff. And it's going to end, spoilers for the movie if you haven't seen it, you should go see it though, it's awesome. And they're going to launch all of these missiles and stuff. Matthew Broderick's brilliant realization is, I need to show that the next move that this computer needs to take is to not play.
Right.
And so the computer's like, the only solution is to not play. And then all the nukes don't go off, and he's like, would you like to play another game? And it's, yuck. It's a brilliant movie.
I just had an image of Matthew Broderick in a War Games match. I got very confused for a second. That makes more sense.
Yeah. So, the answer here, basically what I was getting to, the answer is don't book this match.
Right.
Like if you were going to advertise that you're doing a North American Championship match between Dominic Mysterio and Dragon Lee on next week's show, maybe don't book Cody Rhodes versus Dominic Mysterio, where you have to have Cody win in 2 minutes.
I assume JD McDonough was not there because you could have just done that instead.
He was there.
Right, okay, so you could have done that instead.
He was internally listed, according to Fightful Select, he was listed to be at ringside for all of the Judgment Day segments.
Oh.
And then he just wasn't.
Because he was locked in the loo, or
it's a Vince thing. Because lest we forget, the reason why the Judgment Day and JD storyline was stopped for so long is because Vince came back, and Vince clearly didn't want to do that. Because the second that Vince went away, like when he went for his surgery and stuff, the Judgment Day and JD storyline picked right back up.
Yeah.
And so I think, maybe I'm doing some red string connecting here, but Vince comes back and all of a sudden JD's taken off TV.
Not no. That's all of that said, which is all very true. It's Dominic Mysterio. It's he had no one to back him up, and he lost. And also, I'm sorry, I suppose he did have people to back him up because the Judgment Day were at ringside. I really get off on people doing a pin and staring at someone at ringside. That really does it for me. Like Cody with his hooks the leg, staring at Damian Priest, being like, "Yeah, come and try it." That I loved it as a visual. It's Cody. He wins everything.
This did no favors for Dominic Mysterio though, or Dragon Lee, who was shown at ringside. That's when we had the segment with Owens and Cody and Sammy, where Owens was basically asking Cody for why? Why did you do this? And Cody explained that he does things for the fans.
Because he's a man of people.
He's a man of the people.
Man of the people. I really like this segment. I also really like the fact that it happened. Cody was leaving, and Sammy was like, Kevin was like, we need to have a conversation. And then they cut to break, and I was about to be like, that's weird. They've just been standing there. And if it's that's like an unopened voice note. Like your friend has sent you a voice note, and you instantly go into anxiety mode. You're like, this voice note could be anything. And I was imagining them waiting for the entire ad break to have the conversation. So then when Kevin Owens, who's the only one who's aware that they're in a television show, they're in a simulation, was able to be like, now that everybody can hear us because we're back on the air. And I thought the segment was really, really well done.
I thought Kevin was great in this.
Yeah.
Cody was great. Sammy, kind of being the peacemaker between the two of them, points out to Kevin, is like, look, dude, you've had a lot of second chances.
Yep.
And if you weren't given those second chances, we wouldn't have main evented WrestleMania and won the tag titles. And I thought it was a very good argument made by Sammy. And Kevin ended not by saying, you're right, you convinced me. It's good to have him here. It was just like, I don't trust him, but I do trust you, and I do trust you. And we'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
Really, I thought that was really good, because that also, in theory, should build to a very nice War Games match in November. End of November.
2 months' time. I think it was the subtlety of it. They weren't doing a big point and shout promo. They just were like having a conversation in the ring, and I really liked it.
I liked that a lot. We got a recap of Nia Jax's return, and then, apropos of nothing, Kofi Kingston and Ivar decided to have the best Raw match of 2023.
So what happened was, somebody played a power card, and it meant that Eric was not available for the show. So there was originally going to be apparently, I didn't see this reported. Was this actually reported?
I think it was announced ahead of time, over the weekend, or it might have been on Monday.
Yeah.
That it's going to be a 2 out of 3 falls match between the New Day and the Viking Raiders, because they're both one apiece.
Yeah.
Because wins and losses don't matter.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, they were going to do a 2 out of 3 falls match, and then Eric couldn't get cleared, so instead they did Ivar versus a member of the New Day, which was Kofi Kingston, because he won a game of rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah. And they just went, all right, let's have a banger. Go on then.
You say power cards, they played a power card that meant that Eric was unavailable for this week. But that GM then played their power card, which is, this random match will be a 5-star.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was a double power card match.
And it's a giant versus a cruiser.
Yeah, hey, there you go.
They're already in a rivalry like this. Absolutely worked a treat.
Yeah, it really did.
And I did a bit in the news today in my edited review. But that bit was not me exaggerating. They put up this graphic. It's Ivar versus Kofi Kingston. It's the second match on the show. I literally thought, right, well, this is a filler thing because we're not having the tag match we're supposed to have. That'll happen next week instead. This is literally just filler TV because a segment was booked and now they need to book something else instead. All right, taking my notes. Don't need to pay too much attention to this one. And then Ivar did that splash to the outside.
Yeah.
And I was like, didn't need to be doing that, mate. You don't need to be doing that in this level of filler match. Okay, take that as a note. And then they just kept on going. And they just told this awesome, awesome story of Kofi not giving up, knocking out. At one point, when Ivar did his moonsault, because he goes up to do this splash, and Valhalla on the outside says, no, do something more. And he goes up to do a moonsault instead. And I thought, okay, well, this is where Kofi moves out of the way. No, he hit this exceptional moonsault. and splats Kofi Kingston. I thought a skeleton was going to shoot out of his mouth. And Kofi kicks out. And Wade Barrett, I think it was at this point, went, how dare he kick out?
Right.
And he just kept going. And they were just doing these awesome moves, incredible near falls. And the crowd, who did start in this match being like, two guys, I like both these guys, this will be fun. Oh, that splash the outside was good. And the more they went on, the more this crowd got rabid and rabid and rabid. And they were on fire by the end of this. This match was so much better than it ever needed to be. And Kofi won with a desperation trouble in paradise for the win.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
I mean, to your point, look at my notes. They are exactly the same as yours. I go like, somebody played a power card, don't really make any notes. Seeing a large man fly is always a sight, which is the splash. And then things start picking up, and by the end of it, I'm like, talk about lemon out of lemonade. Like, it's taking a routine match and making it really like they did something. They just went, well, we don't have to do a routine TV match. We'll just do a really good match. And the thing about the crowd, we're like a microcosm of the crowd themselves. They were kind of like there, and then they were hot for it. Like, that's what I mean. I don't mean just in general. You pulled your face. I know that face. It scares me. No, but the crowd weren't really there for it. Like, or rather, they were just like, okay, we'll watch this.
Fine. They were like, yeah.
And then by the time he pulls off that moonsault, the crowd are really into it.
Only because they thought this will go 2.5 minutes.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. So like all of us had this exact same thought, and then collectively we were proven wrong.
God, it was so great.
And it was such a good match. I think part of the reason it was such a good match was because the moves themselves were really crisp. They were like video game deliveries. The SOS that Kofi delivered on Ivar was a really, really crisp, clean SOS. The double underhook powerbomb was like something out of a video game. It was like so easy.
Sorry, there's someone there who's just like, this was not a giant versus cruiser. It was a cruiser versus an even bigger cruiser.
Like, it kind of was. Like, but this is so to the. There's a slight ding, and it's not their fault here. This is an aging thing. But slightly later on in the show, we had Bronson Reed. And the whole time I'm watching Bronson Reed, I'm like, oh, I wish I was watching Ivar again. And I never thought I'd say those words.
No, I felt really, because they were, it was.
And I like the War Raiders.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of, Sean Ross Sepp on the Fightful post show was like, it just felt like the producers went, just go and do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, I'm not actually going to give you any notes for this match. Just do whatever the hell you want out there. So like, all right, we'll just go out there and just have the best match of the show.
And it
killed the next match.
This is it. It was fantastic. I really, really liked it. Props to both of them. Yeah. Also, the other thing of like, I kept thinking during it, I'm like, Ivar gets a win here. He's got a pin over a former WWE champion. It's like, sometimes you forget Kofi was the champion for a long old run there.
Until Soundboard Cole comes in. Former WWE champion.
That's very true. But yeah, just high props to them both. Brilliant match.
Yeah, absolutely awesome. We got a recap of, speaking of less awesome, a recap of Seth and Nakamura from the past few weeks, and Ricochet cutting a promo. His gimmick is he is the highlight of the night.
It rhymes.
Yeah, but I just watched Kofi and Ivar, and I feel like that was my highlight of the night. And I'll be honest with you, Rick, it sure weren't your match. He then said, and I'm going to pick you up on this.
Me?
No, not you.
Rick.
I'm addressing him directly. He called himself a cheat code, and tonight is game over.
Not my area of expertise. I'll just go over here.
If your cheat code leads to a game over, that's a bad cheat code. Cheat codes are supposed to help you win the game.
Even I know that.
It led to Shinsuke Nakamura versus Ricochet. And Rollins came out before Ricochet made his entrance. So weird production. Adam Pearce tried to break things up. Security kind of broke this up and that. And then they had this match of Nakamura and Ricochet. And I was like, the crowd are popping for the spots that they're doing. Like, sliding German. Oh. Ricochet does a flip. Oh. But look how much this crowd were into two lads from the tag division going into a match with no stakes. Compared to this match that has a guy that was feuding with Logan Paul not 2 months ago, and the supposed biggest challenger, the number one contender to the World Heavyweight Championship. And the crowd went, eh. And it's actually frustrating because I think this is the best of the angles that they've done between Nakamura and Rollins.
Yeah.
I actually really liked what they did here. But this feud is so ice cold that even a really good angle like this is it's taking a lighter to a frozen lake. Like you are not thawing this.
Just let him go. Let him wrestle. Don't deliver a TV match. Like,
and it ended at a DQ as well for him.
Okay, so here's my thing with this one. First of all, I was like, oh, he's got a spooky entrance for Halloween season. He's got all like the mist, and then he's got his big old spooky coat. Cole keeps on going on about how he's got new gear. I say he's got the same gear with a slightly different color palette.
Well, it's black and yellow now.
That makes absolutely no difference.
He's
to
a
me.
baddie.
Well, it was black and red, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So now it's black and yellow.
Well, yellow's an evil color.
Ah, right.
You seen the minions?
Quite like the minions.
You
That's
basic bitch.
the minions actually good. Do a poll. So these are the most Dan. Okay, I'm going to enter a period that I'm just going to call Dan is Dan and can't be anyone but Dan as I read my notes to you. Seth's look was fire. He was wearing a deep V. You know me. And then this was. Do you know about Jack Warner from the Warner Brothers? The studio.
And their sister Dot.
Sure, probably.
Yeah.
He used to define. He would like when he was watching the output of the studio. He would define it as like a two-piss picture, which was that if I go to the bathroom twice, that's not a good movie.
Yeah.
During this match, I started checking Twitter.
I think you need to go to the doctors if you're taking two pisses in it. I mean, back in
It's
those
just an excuse to do something else.
90-minute movies, mate.
Just get out. It's boring. I'll go do something else. In this one, I was watching the football. It's like, how long is it before I get my phone out? How long is it before I do something else? I was reading football news while this match was going on because I knew it wasn't going to pop. I knew it wasn't going to turn into anything. And literally, as we've been saying, the match before is evidence that when you can turn it on in a big way. And then in the film Monster-in-Law, J-Lo slaps Jane Fonda, and then she apologizes for slapping Jane Fonda. So Jane Fonda slaps her back and says, "You don't slap somebody, then apologize." And then they have a slap fight. That happened in here, which Ricochet hit Nax with a chair, and then the ref's like, "You're disqualified." It's like, "What am I disqualified for?" And then he doesn't carry on hitting him with a chair. Like, he just bashed him with a chair once. Keep going. Make it count.
Well, yeah, because what happened, like, the story of this match they were putting over on commentary is that Nakamura had no interest in winning the match. He just wanted to punish Ricochet. Why? I don't know. But that's what they kept telling me on commentary. And then he baited Ricochet into getting himself DQ'd. So Ricochet, like a div, gets himself DQ'd, then runs back into the ring. And his defense was, well, he was going to hit me with a chair first. So I hit him with it. It's a bad defense, Rick.
There's no teeth to this character, Ricochet.
No. And then Seth Rollins ran down. They brawled some more because Nakamura was beating up Ricochet with a chair. And Rollins and Nakamura brawled for a bit. He got backdropped onto a chair, did Rollins, and then he got thrown into the announcer's table. As I said, I thought the Nakamura, like the presentation of Nakamura, particularly in this post-beatdown, when he was going away and he grabbed someone's sign, it was a big Seth Rollins head, and he put it over his head and started doing the Seth Rollins. I was like, no, you're cool. You are a cool character. I'll disagree with you. I think his entrance gear, which is very like Japanese and stuff.
Oh, no, I like that.
Yeah, it's all great. I think the presentation is good.
Yeah.
The video promos that he's been doing are so great.
Yeah, love that.
But there's something about this feud that just is not clicking. And I get the feeling it's Seth Rollins.
Yeah.
And he's a boring world champion.
Yeah, he's a boring babyface.
He is a boring babyface.
He's a boring babyface. Like, and
this is what happened to him when he won the Universal title.
Yeah.
White hot going into winning that belt and beating Brock Lesnar. The second he won that belt, became an unlikable guy. There was a boring world champion having bad matches with Baron Corbin and then embarrassing himself with the Fiend.
I just think about his run in 2022. 2022, where he comes out wearing the Shield gear, or he has his feud with Cody and he wears Dusty's gear, and like he was just a horrible little heel man, and it was like brilliant. Seth Rollins is really good. Something about having a belt around his waist makes Seth Rollins really not that good.
Yeah,
it's weird.
It is
because it's almost like we're being gaslit by what we're seeing, because Seth Rollins is really good. Yeah. So why is Seth Rollins not good? Do you know why? It doesn't make any sense.
I do think this is the best angle that they have done in this feud so far. It's just, unfortunately, this feud is now 2 months old. Toothless. And it's struggling a little bit. Rollins was struggling to walk backstage as he went into a trainer's room. And we then got... what do we have next? Sorry, my notes.
Chelsea
Green. And Piper Niven. Chelsea did some comedy about them being friends, but she didn't even know where Piper Niven was from.
She called Byron Saxton Brian.
Yep. And
quite funny.
When she said, Piper Niven said, "What country am I from?" And she went, Wales, Florida.
Yeah. good little bit of comedy.
Very, very good comedy. Chelsea Green is great.
Yeah.
They went on to have a match against Shayna Baszler and Zoey Stark that ended in a DQ.
Yeah, that was 2 in a row.
2 in a row. You want to tell me that Vince isn't back in creative? Bloody hell. And it was Nia Jax, and she just destroyed all 4 of them because this tag division is dead.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. And I was enjoying it up until that point.
Yeah.
Because I was enjoying Shayna. Sorry to cut you off there. I was enjoying Shayna and Zoey doing their anything you can do, I can do better deal on Chelsea Green. Actually, that was the bit I was enjoying. Piper Niven unfortunately got in and she was just as good as the other 2.
Yeah.
But I was enjoying them just ragdolling Chelsea Green around and being like, oh, do you think you could do this? Watch what I can do to her arm.
Look, Chelsea Green is so good in this role. Like,
Yeah.
Chelsea Green is very good as the performer. That's why she kind of forced her way into this position. Her and Sonya were having a really good run together. It's so frustrating that Sonya got taken by the curse of the crystals and Mercedes Moné put in those belts. And yeah, the Stark and Baszler stuff, like, it was confusing face-heel alignments. I'm like, okay, so internally, I know that Baszler is probably a face in your eyes, but she doesn't really present as one.
She's a heel.
But like, she was a face in the
No, she was not a heel she was a heel in the Ronda feud.
Is that just? Am I just thinking because we all were like, well, Ronda's gone,
Yeah, she was saying true things, but she was 100p a heel.
right? And then Starks is a heel, but then so we've got 4 heels, whatever.
That's why Nia Jax had to come in and ruin everything.
But I did enjoy them all. When Nia Jax arrives, I'm like, Chelsea and Nia Jax would have been an interesting pairing, like to have as tag team champions.
Yeah.
When Chelsea was looking for a partner, not that I'm unhappy to see Piper Niven walk out with a belt on, but like, if you're looking for somebody to step into that role who kind of has that Karen whingy energy, Nia Jax is there, and you're bringing her back. And if she's not going to go straight after Rhea Ripley, although I suppose Rhea wasn't on the show,
isn't she?
well, this is it. This is the weird question. That said, that was it. I was like, that would have been interesting, but yeah, the division's dead.
We had the not Kathy Kelly interviewing Jey, the segment that we talked about earlier. And then we got Chad Gable versus Bronson Reed. This would set up a couple of segments earlier when Pierce was on the phone, basically being like, Nia Jax is a problem, and you need to sort that problem out. And Gable walks up and he wants another shot at Gunther for the IC title because he came within a gnat's dick of winning last time.
I hate when you say that.
And Bronson Reed walks up and a match is made between the 2 of them. And I thought to myself, wow, that's a really smart bit of booking, isn't it? Because Chad Gable went up against the big man last week for the IC belt, and he came really close to winning that belt, but he just couldn't do it in the end because Gunther is just too much of an end-level boss. So put him in the ring with another big man, and he could beat that big man. So like, no, look, I can do this. I can beat that big man. And then Bronson Reed just won.
I knew you wouldn't like this.
No, that's where you're wrong.
But then why are you presenting it like that? You bait and switch.
What'd you call me? I think my guess from this is that we are going to be doing Gable versus Gunther again. We're just not going to do it at the next pay-per-view. Mm-hmm. We're not going to do it at Survivor Series. Mm-hmm. We might do it. You and I were saying earlier, you could do it as like a Christmas time.
Yeah. The
Christmas Day episode, like an episode of Raw happening on December 25th. It'll be a pre-taped show, but you could do Chad Gable wins the IC title in front of his family on Christmas.
This kid's not crying anymore.
And it'll be a fun Christmas time. Or you could do it on the New Year's episode, and it's a fun holiday season time. I was like, you hold on and do it at WrestleMania because, Sheamus had his. That's what they did with Sheamus. He had his match with Gunther at Clash. Then they had some stuff on SmackDown. Then they kind of kept them apart. Then did the match again at WrestleMania. So you could just delay it for that long. So I don't think that this is, it's a burial of Chad Gable. His push is over. Vince is back and he's not doing it. But I was watching this being like, man, Chad Gable is like the hottest babyface you had in the mid-card. And he just got beat here.
Well, this is okay. So this is where I'm going to come and push back on you,
Please.
Which is that I thought this was really effective. I thought it was such a simple thing. If you give the crowd something to buy into, and the thing that they gave them to buy into this match is that Chad Gable says, "I can lift you." Can he actually lift him for a suplex? Right. So every time he was going for it, he had his hands around his waist. He's saying, "I can do it." He'd already in that backstage statement. He made it clear, "I know I can do this kind of thing." Mm-hmm. He's Coach Gable. We've seen him do these amazing things. He's incredible. So when he's got his hands around his waist and he's trying to lift him and he can't quite, the audience are like, oh, they're like, they want to see it. They want to see it. We're getting that delayed sort of response. And we had it on Collision yesterday with, what's his face? Claudio Castagnoli was not quite able to get Big Bill up for a fireman suplex. So he was absolutely battering him and weakening him. So then he could get the momentum and then get him up and do it. It's really simple. It's really effective stuff. And I thought that is what we were being shown here. Chad Gable, who has proven that he can beat Gunther, has proven that he can last 5 seconds with Gunther, all of these things. And in this case, he's saying, like, no, I can win. Give me another shot. I want another shot. And Pierce says, you have to get to the back of the line. Sorry, like, you know, you had your chance and you didn't win. And it's not that I don't want it. I just can't put you in there. You have to earn it kind of thing. So he's still on that kind of like, I've got a point to prove. I've got a chip on my shoulder. My daughter cried. This is rubbish. I'm in over. I'm gonna go it. And then he's secretly, there it is. He's in over his head. And actually, no, he can't lift up Bronson Reed that easily that he thinks he can. And when he does, he uses his ingenuity to say, here comes a senton. I'm going to get my knees up because he's clever. He knows what he's doing, Alpha Academy. And he tweaks his knee. Oh, no. Well, here I am. I can still push through that, and I'm going to get Bronson Reed up for this big Chaos Theory German. And I've got him off his feet, except, oh, no, my knee. I'm not as strong as I think I am. I'm hoisted on my own petard. My hubris has got in the way, and I lose. I don't see it as a simple, and then Bronson Reed won. No. I don't see it as it's nowhere. I know you're not suggesting this, but it's nowhere close to a burial.
Absolutely not. I think anyone saying that does not.
Yeah.
That is an exaggeration.
Completely. It's the beginning of his labors of Hercules.
Exactly.
To get back to Gunther.
And it's delaying the story. Yeah. And what we're doing instead is setting up other people for Gunther to beat. We're setting up Bronson Reed because Bronson Reed's going to have a match with Otis next week. That'll likely lead to a Bronson Reed Gunther match at some point down the line. Tommaso Ciampa is next in line for the IC belt. While at the same time we're building up Bronson Reed. So you can do Ciampa at the pay-per-view. You can do Reed perhaps at Survivor Series. And then you could do, as we were saying earlier, Chad in December.
Yeah.
And all the while that's happening, it's just rebuilding Chad up. This did feel like it took a lot of the wind out of Chad's
I didn't feel
sails.
that personally, but I can see why you might. I saw it less like Bronson Reed beat Chad Gable and more Chad Gable lost, if that makes sense. I think there's a distinction
that's
there.
Fair. The only thing I'd push back on that is because it's Bronson and Otis next week. It was like, no, Bronson Reed is beat Chad Gable, and next week he's going to beat Otis.
Yeah.
And that is going to put him in line for an IC title shot at some point soon. Yeah, I think the story they're telling is a good one. It's one that people are going to have to give some patience to because on paper, you had your white-hot babyface and he just gets beaten. And, you know, because we did this with the Cody and Dom thing earlier, it's just like, oh, man, that felt like a real burial of Dominic. This did not feel like a burial, but if it's on the same show, people can connect those two together and see that on paper, it looks like it's a burial of Chad.
But do you remember about this time last year, Alpha Academy were losing every week?
Well, they were doing that this year.
And I think we were both at the time being like, they can take it, and
losses don't affect them.
And it's
you can tell a really fun story with this.
They were just mired in this sort of tag division doing their thing, and then Chad got here. I think they can handle it. I think this is fine.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
And I think he likely will be the man to dethrone Gunther.
I do too. Sorry, Shaymo.
Speaking of dethroning Gunther, Ciampa cut his promo backstage, basically saying, I've done nothing since coming to the main roster. We'll have another promo like that in a couple of segments' time.
He almost said, do it yourself, but he didn't.
But he did. Because that story isn't happening anymore.
Yeah, I said, going straight for Gunther, I will enjoy the match of Fastlane, is what I wrote down.
We got a recap of Becky winning the NXT Championship last Tuesday.
Did someone call that on Monday last week?
Well, you and I said it certainly could happen, and
no, I said sure. I called it, and then we had a conversation that we both agreed, but I was the one who brought it up.
Oh,
can I have some flowers?
Sorry, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, I didn't mean to steal your thunder, there, mate. I thought we were both in agreement.
Just once I was right. I wanted.
But you also said that she'll just stay on NXT, and I said, "Oh, she."
Yeah, that was stupid. That was my bad. Yeah.
Then we had Kevin and Sammy chatting backstage with Jey walking up, being like, "Look, Kev, if you want to say something to me, say it to my face." So Kev just said it to his face.
Yeah,
and then said, "I'm off."
I loved it.
Yeah, it's great.
I loved it as well because it's this idea of like it's all feeding in the story. It's all feeding the possible, what's Jey going to do thing, because the bad guys are being really welcoming to Jey, giving him a deadline, but being really welcoming to him. And the good guys are justified because of their resentments and they're being wary of you. And in the case of KO, they've got their hot-headed attitude. I thought Jey might be turning. I didn't know where it was going to go because of segments like this. Really, really good.
So then we got Becky Lynch's open challenge for the NXT Women's Championship.
Yes.
This was, according to Fightful Select, originally Tegan Nox.
Yes.
And then Tegan Nox was swapped out and she was put on main event instead.
Yes.
Because as my notes right here, Natalya's music hit and I did a big groan.
I didn't. But this was the wrong choice.
Yes, because Becky's whole promo was... This is why this didn't work.
Yes.
Because Becky's promo was, I want someone new to step up to the plate. And I'm looking to build the future of this company. Because that is what NXT is. She didn't say this in many words, but like, look up and down this card. Everyone came through NXT. Bronson Reed's NXT. Chad Gable's NXT. Tommaso Ciampa's NXT. Gunther is NXT. Granted, a lot of them did their hard work elsewhere, and then NXT took the credit for it.
They don't count, only NXT.
But in WWE's worldview, they created these stars. They didn't, but they in their argument, they can certainly make that they did. So Natalya comes out, and her promo is, I am not new. I was on TV 8 weeks ago, and I have not been booked since. I should have this match now. And Becky then had to say, dude, I literally said I wanted someone new to step up, and you've been here for 15 years and have accomplished nothing. And Natalya was like, yeah, well, you're a ginger witch. And then they had a standard match, and Becky won. And I thought, what was the point in this?
Yeah, that's a really good assessment of why it didn't work. Basically, this was this thing of, I love Becky with the title. I love Big Time Beck. So it's my big thing with her. She seems rejuvenated. She had that fantastic match on Have you seen the match that she won the belt with on NXT?
It was great.
It was great. Really, really good work from both women.
Tiffany Stratton, by the way, she's main roster ready.
Oh, that's a star. That is a star. Natty has a point, which we like, which is that you're talking about wanting to elevate all these younger women. I mean,
you went to NXT and you buried the division.
Tiffany, Live Valkyria, Cora Jade, all of these women who are in the division that
you've taken it from them.
Yeah, you've taken it away, and now it's on like Raw. Like, if you, that was a good point, well made. Hypocritical Ginger Witch was hilarious, but I wrote that feels a bit extreme, and I don't think I needed Natalya to be a heel in this situation. So I think I didn't know about Tegan Nox when I was watching the match. So when Natalya comes out, I was like, oh, this is there saying thank you for stepping up in the way that Natalya did in India. For those who were unaware, Becky Lynch couldn't make it to India because of an issue with her passport. The issue being there was a slight tear on it, not that she, has done a crime. So she couldn't go to India. They needed someone to step up and fill the gap. Natalya wrestled twice in one night.
She's always just sat by the phone, waiting for WWE to call them.
She's a hard worker. She's the me. I do that.
She is a reliable hand.
You text me and say, you free for this? And I'm like, yes, like it's that. So I relate to Natalya. Maybe that's why I like her so much. But yeah, I read this as them giving her a thank you. But you are right. The way Becky came out and pitched it, I was expecting a Tegan Nox.
Yeah.
I was expecting a Candice LeRae.
An Indy Hartwell.
A
former NXT Women's Champion in her own right.
She never lost it. So, and if that belt's going to be on Raw, why couldn't I have a go on it, kind of thing? Like, I think that is the intent, it sounds like, of what they wanted to do. Would have been a far more effective use of this segment. The match itself was absolutely fine. Yeah, it just didn't work. And I think there are two things that I want to say now about what could work. Because we've talked a lot about women's division wrestling over the past few months, both sides of the coin. We had a conversation about them pushing the TBS title on Collision yesterday, and it did. I think they did a really effective job on it on Collision yesterday. Becky Lynch and Tiffany Stratton drew a 26% increase on the ratings for NXT.
Over 1 million people tuned in for their match.
Over 1 million people tuned in for their match. And they went overtime. I wanted to check whether or not it was because people were tuning in for what was following. What's following NXT tonight on Indie USA Network is the Expendables 3. So, like, it's not like the big appointment television show or another sports match.
People are going to get ready for the Expendables 4.
Maybe. But fact of the matter is, people wanted to see this match. stuff was going on. Oh, it's on. I'll watch that. They tuned in.
It's a big match.
It's a big match. And a 44...
I think Becky Lynch is a draw.
Yeah.
She's an actual star.
She is. 44% increase on the key demographic. The World Cup final last month was attended by 75,000 people. In 2020, the Women's World Cup final specifically. In 2021, the Women's European final that was held at Wembley drew a crowd of 87,000 people, which is bigger than both the reported attendance and the Freedom of Information attendance for All In. Like, whichever one you want to go with, it's still bigger than both. Barbie drew $1.4 billion worldwide. Women's stuff draws. There are people in the comments and there are people all over Twitter. There are people all over this community, this wrestling community, that say, oh, I'm just not interested in women's stuff. People just aren't interested in women's stuff. The women's stuff won't draw. There's facts that prove that you're wrong. I'm sorry you don't enjoy it.
It's a generalization to say that wrestling fans don't care about women's wrestling because facts will always prove you wrong.
There are people, and I want to be clear, I'm not even just throwing this at wrestling fans, brought it out to the wider world. There are people who work in the movie industry, in the distribution industry, who didn't book enough screenings of Barbie because they didn't think it was going to be as popular as that it was. And then
it's madness.
Which is mad when you think about it, because women are a large portion of the population, plot twist. So people do want to see this stuff. It's about, if you book them, they will come. If you book Becky Lynch on NXT, the viewers will go and watch it. As you say, Becky's a draw. When I've spoken about how the division is a bit weak, the tag team division is dead, the who's going to... This big graphic of who could take on Rhea Ripley next. Well, they brought in Nia Jax, you know. It's this thing of, if you build them, they will come. If you give them the opportunities, they will come. Having Becky Lynch have this title, doing an open challenge, she's going to be at NXT tonight. Have a Tegan Nox face her. It makes that way, when we see Tegan Nox have a moment on Raw, it means a little bit more. When we see them around backstage, when they have matches that are there to feed to the next big pay-per-view for Rhea Ripley, then it means a little bit more. That's my little soapbox piece about that. The other thing that I had in my head while I was watching this is, who takes this title off Becky Lynch at some point? Because she's not going to hold it forever and ever. It's a developmental belt for a reason. And I think you could do a lot worse than have Becky do an open challenge for a few weeks, and then at some point, Jade Cargill makes a debut, whether it be on Raw, whether it be on a pay-per-view, takes the belt, maybe even at No Mercy is coming up, NXT No Mercy. Present her as a star, give her that massive win, and she can spend some time on the developmental roster.
We were working on this today. We're working on like a list video of fantasy booking ideas you could have for Jade Cargill's WWE debut. I suggested the breakout tournaments. Because the breakout tournament's coming up soon. You can have Cargill win the breakout tournament and have her dethrone Becky. If you're not going to do Tiffany, and Tiffany makes sense.
To regain the belt.
Tiffany makes the most sense to regain the belt because... it's the same with Dolph Ziggler winning the NXT Championship from Bron Breakker. The idea is Bron Breakker wins the belt back. You've beaten the big main roster star. It's a good way to put over your NXT talent by beating a main roster star. So Tiffany Stratton, for me, is the one that makes the most sense. However, if you wanted to get some headlines, Tiffany Stratton regaining the title, that's no headlines. That ain't a talking point. No one is really talking about that. It's good business, but no one's really talking about that. Jade Cargill comes in and she wins that belt. That's something that people are talking about.
Big business.
That's bigger business.
Yeah.
So I would say Cargill is number one, numero uno on my list to be the person to dethrone Becky, particularly if she's going to keep doing these open challenges. As it was for this episode of Raw, though, completely agree with everything you said, by the way. Can I tell you a fun fact, actually, about this? You know the song "Bring Me to Life" by Evanescence?
Love it, banger.
It is. So I, for years, for the past 20 years, in fact, have thought that I don't like that song. I didn't like it when it came out.
How?
It was
everywhere.
Well, that's the problem.
Right.
It was everywhere, and I didn't particularly like it. And even though it was a number one song here,
it was a banger.
The UK. And the reason people was like, "Well, why don't you like that song?" I was like, "The dude singing is awful in it.
Wake me up,
save me!" And then he does he swore then. He does a really bad rap.
Can't believe I couldn't see, kept in the dark, but you were there in front of me.
It's laughably terrible. It is a bad rap.
Oh, I love it.
He's not in the band.
No, he's not.
He is not.
He's a featured artist.
He is a featured artist. But every time that song was like on the radio or it was on TV, it was just Evanescence, Bring Me to Life.
Yeah.
So I spent the last 20 years thinking he was just part of the band.
Nope.
He is not. Do you know why he is in that song?
Why?
Because the record label weren't going to release it unless he was on it. Because the record label said, "You are a woman in a rock industry, in a male-dominated industry, no one is going to buy this record unless there is a male voice on it.
Yep.
And despite the fact that Amy Lee and Evanescence fought against it, the record label said, we are not going to release this song unless this guy from 12 Stones ruins it.
I argue it's perfect as is.
And so they released it, and that is the version we got there. So yeah, it's just like
This is
more,
a thing.
It was more to your point of just like it is not just a wrestling only thing.
No, it's not at all.
When I was interviewing people for my video game book that I did many moons ago, did a chat about the Tomb Raider movie, and this is one of my favorite like Hollywood stories. So Steven D'Souza was working on a script for Tomb Raider, and then Mystery Men was released in cinemas.
Oh yeah.
And Mystery Men bombed in the pictures, right? And Paramount cancelled all plans for a Tomb Raider movie. Why? Well, that's a comic book movie and it failed. This is the same thing. Plus, it's got a woman. It's already going to struggle.
Yeah.
We're not going to make this movie now. Because when they released Mystery Men, they thought, well, Batman was a big hit in '89. This is also a comic book movie. This will also be a big hit.
Things don't get made because people have these preconceived notions, and when it's a vicious circle. It's a vicious circle.
Yeah.
The only way you break it is by doing it and then getting the data to back it up.
Yeah, I once wrote an article for a movie website when they didn't announce Captain Marvel or a Black Widow movie in like phase 2 and phase 3 phase 2 rather I should say of the MCU, and people were like, oh, Marvel are sexist. And I said, they're not sexist, they're afraid of failure.
Yeah,
because history has told the movie industry that female-led action movies don't draw numbers. Then they make them, and they do draw numbers. But then all it'll take is for one of them not to do well. They're like, "That told you."
Which is this? And this is my whole point to bring it back on theme with Hardcore Country was that it doesn't. The Hardcore Country thing was fine if there were 7 women's matches on the show, but there was only 1. Do you know how many men's action movies fail?
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Does it stop them making more action movies? No.
It's AEW is a great example of
backwards
this.
and in heels.
It's AEW is a great example of this because the argument is, well, they don't draw money, they don't draw the ratings. They're like, well, there's loads of lads that don't do either, but that doesn't mean you stop doing lads matches.
Yeah, big time. Final thing on Evanescence, just because I know we need to move on because we're going to go over time, and I could talk about this forever. But that album, brilliant, by the way.
I never listened to it.
So it's obviously because of the story, but it's a brilliant album, and one of the songs on it is called "My Last Breath," and that is the theme for Christian Cage in Impact, which we now have in AEW. It's an Evanescence song. It's not meant to be. It's a carbon copy thereof, and it's a banger.
The only reason I'm bringing this up is because I was on the POD cast last night, which is a new metal podcast. I was on their Patreon feed reviewing the Daredevil soundtrack.
Oh yeah.
And that was like the big featured song.
It was, and it was also the theme for No Way Out, 2003.
Yeah. Like it was a big song.
Yeah,
which was a February thing. This was a February release as well. So Daredevil, Valentine's Day movie.
Big.
It was a love movie.
Romance. Yeah,
it was a romance movie between Daredevil and Elektra. It's why it's fresh in my mind. But that was it was only I was today years old or this week years old that I found out that it was Evanescence featuring some dude.
Yeah.
So I'm now going to go listen to Fallen because I've been told it's very good.
It's a good album.
Anyway, Bad Wade commentary here, where he said, it's been a while since Natalya was in a ring with someone the caliber of Becky Lynch. And I was like, yeah, it was 8 weeks ago when she was in the ring with the world champion.
Just said that. Just said that a second ago. Also, way to bury everybody else.
Anyway, that's when Pierce backstage chatted with Dragon Lee, and they talked about their North American Championship match happening on Raw next week.
Dominic comes in and says, I was just lost to Cody Rhodes. About 2 hours ago, buddy. Like, how long is it taking you to find Adam Pearce?
And the last thing we actually get to talk about here is Giovanni Vinci versus Tommaso Ciampa, which Ciampa won with a Sicilian stretch.
Yeah. It's a routine match.
Stop shouting at Vinci. Stop trying to break up Imperium.
How many times are we going to see that specific shot of Vinci looking sad while he gets shouted at?
And here, I think, herein lies the problem I have with this idea of trying to break up Imperium. Number one, it's a bad idea.
Yeah.
Number two, you just keep teasing it and don't follow up on any of it. So that just makes it bad storytelling.
Yeah, completely agree.
It's a bad idea, and you're not telling it very well.
Yeah.
And then the very last thing is Seth Rollins struggled to walk backstage and stole Orange Cassidy's gimmick of being tired.
While looking like me when I'm hungover, honestly. Also, Dominic Mysterio also said in his segment as well, I don't like guys with masks. They remind me of my dad. Save it for the therapist, babe.
So that was this week's episode of Raw. you make of it?
I really liked it overall. Would I say it was like an outstanding episode of Raw? No, but I think it was considerably better than mid. We had a great match with Kofi in there. Lots to talk about. The seeds being sown of Jey and Drew through the show, I thought were really effective. When Drew came out in his little white kilt, I had a big moment. I was like, oh, a bit of white gear. Something's going down. So, yeah, I really liked it. It's a thumbs up. It's a thumbs up episode for me.
This was a 3 out of 5 episode of Raw.
Fair.
A lot of it just sort of feels like it's the same stale stuff that we've seen before.
Yeah, I can see that.
With a couple of little bits of salt and pepper throughout there to sort of season it ever so slightly. But I very much enjoyed the Jey Uso stuff on this week's episode.
Yeah.
I really liked
it was very effective.
So yeah, I can't Kofi. If you haven't seen Raw,
yeah,
that's the match to go out of your way to watch.
Seek it out. It's worth it.
It was so great.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much for joining us. We're going to go through the rest of your Alpha Chat shortly. And we've actually got no Patreon shoutouts to do on this episode.
No.
You've finished them off yesterday on the Collision Show by shouting out our wonderful moderating team. So do you know what? Let's just shout out the moderating team again.
Go moderating team.
In fact, actually, I'm going to read out all of the moderators' names.
Yeah, why not?
One more time. Where are they?
In the podcast shoutout section.
Andy, Brandon, CJ, Gaz, Ian, James, Jay, John, Les, Rob, and Mod Mother Jenna.
Mod Mother Jenna.
Thank you all so much. Thank you. Good clapping, Ben.
To the audience.
Also, head on over to Patreon because you're about to record WrestleTalk After Dark.
After dark.
After this.
Gonna get crunk.
Is that what you're going to do?
No, I'll probably just sit nicely and have a coffee.
I am not on this week's episode because me and Laurie are off to drafts to play some board games with my old D&D crew because one of our crew got engaged.
Lovely.
A couple of weeks back, so we're going to go and hang out with them.
Pass on our congrats.
And we're going to drafts, and then someone said, like, oh, what games are we going to play? And I said, the game we're going to play is chat.
You're going to talk to each other.
Because we don't catch up enough.
Yeah.
And this is a way for us to catch up.
Yeah. I played a lot of Cheese Thief over the weekend. Had a great time.
Cheese blindness.
Great time.
Getting to the rest of your Alpha Chats now. Please do continue getting them in. Ding, ding, ding. This is your last call for them. WrestleTalk.com/support. And Homestar Fan says, do you think they could fix the Rock Cody dilemma by instead doing The Rock versus Roman at Survivor Series? The Rock debuted at Survivor Series, so it makes sense to have his final match there. That frees Roman up to face Cody at Mania. I actually could see that happening because Mania is the much bigger thing. Actually, I mean, they've got Chicago for it, haven't they?
Chicago for Survivor Series.
So it's a big stadium. Like,
it's not a stadium, it's the Ultra Arena.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
So it's not as big.
The Rock will want to do a much bigger
That's why
show.
When I talk about you having Cody win the belt to take it off Roman, because it has to be Cody, I'm sorry, it just does, to take it off Roman ahead of Roman Rock at Mania, it's either Tampa Bay, where you have a big stadium of 60-odd thousand people, so you have the stadium feel, make the Royal Rumble feel like something worth tuning in for, not just the Royal Rumble matches, but also this. Or Chicago, crowd very dear to Cody's heart, is where he showed off his big torn pec. They gave him a rapturous ovation the most recent time he was there, all in. It's a massively important crowd, so you could have that home field advantage. Remember when CM Punk won the belt in Chicago? You'd have that, but Cody Rhodes.
I've never seen it. I agree with you. I also agree with Homestar Fan's point there, though, because, like, you know, The Rock, when he did his last return, wanted to do something at Survivor Series because Survivor Series is quite near and dear to his heart.
26 years now, I think
and
it is.
The choice he made was to have a bad match. Yes, the Bizarre Truth. Hurt Business, although I've got no opinion on this. Hurt Business 2 says, honestly, Seth Rollins has been an absolute fun vacuum as a champion, which is surprising. This Macho Man 2.0 act is meh. Both Shinsuke and Balor have been more interesting as challengers. He's not even closing show.
I just don't, because he's really good. And this character worked for me before the belt.
You say that, though, but, like, you know, he closed out the last pay-per-view and he didn't do enough to close out that last pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Like, the tag guys did more.
Yeah.
Seth Rollins has gone from being one of the best wrestlers in WWE, if not the best wrestler in WWE, to not even in the top 10. I think he actually might fall under the top 15 at this point.
You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the last time he had a heel championship run was 2015 when he first won it. And it was an effective run. He kind of carried the company.
Tell that to his knees.
Well, there you go. Why can't he be a heel champion? They seem to turn in babyface to win the belt, and it keeps not working.
Yeah, well, I just think Seth sucks as a babyface.
I think so too, because I think they try and make him bland. I think he has a much better time. Which
is weird given how he's dressing at the moment.
That's not heel.
No, he said he makes him bland as a babyface.
Oh, I see. I was going to say it's lovely dress. It's lovely dress wear.
Mike the Jeweler with a huge donation here. Thank you very much. To say, Look in my eyes, what do you see? CM Punk back to the E.
It's lovely. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Good day, lads. Hello to the professor. Hi, Luke. DAD. Chad needs to win the IC belt right now. Gunther broke the record, so it's time. Let's freaking go. Or do you just keep going?
Keep going.
And you build it up and you build it. You build up so that actual title win. Because otherwise, it's just, that's what happened with Bianca when she broke the record, then immediately just lost the belt.
And what's happened since?
Yeah. So actually, it's better for Gunther to just keep the belt going.
Yeah.
And just, stay champion post-Rumble.
Yep.
Keep the belt till Mania. Caleb has been in Memberg for 23 months in a row, who says nothing to do with Raw, but while working at GameStop, I met a fellow wrestling fan and became stoked for Grand Slam and Wrestle Dream. Love you, mainly Ollie. #day one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, I hope you enjoy Grand Slam and Wrestle Dream. I'm very much
good build.
Yeah.
I've been praising AEW's build, Luke. You weren't here for it.
I'm looking forward to Grand Slam quite a lot,
Yeah,
in fact.
I think it's going to be great.
Charles Berg has been in Memberg for 28 months in a row. Says, I've been busy taking a break from the wrestling. Hope you're all doing well. I am doing incredibly well. I'll be back eventually. Love you all. Well, we love you, Charles Berg. Thanks very much for checking in, bud.
Always good to have a little rest now and again.
Oh, wow. There's actually 3 polls to go through. Evan Reich says, yesterday was my birthday. I work full-time and go to school on Monday, so I decided to take the day off as a gift to myself. I hardly get to watch you guys live, so I wanted to share some things, so I wanted to share some good vibes. Jam that jam, boys. Well, thank you very much, Evan. That's very kind of you.
Good vibes, gratefully received and passed along.
Thank you very much. Just Donnie has been in Memberg for 24 months in a row. Says, morning, lads. Dan, I've been enjoying your list a lot, and Luke, I'm seeing Scene Queen in November. Samesies.
Are you?
Seeing her in October.
How exciting. Whereabouts?
At London.
Do you know the venue?
I can't remember. Hold on.
Come on.
Can't remember which one it is.
Thank you very much for the list, love, by the way. Really appreciate it. Working hard on those. You don't realize until you start doing lists, it sort of requires you to watch a lot of things, and then you think about them more than you've ever thought about in your life before.
You don't just know this stuff?
Some of it I do, but some I haven't watched like No Mercy 1999 in a long time.
It is... Oh, the O2 Islington.
Oh, it's a great venue.
Yeah,
great venue.
I'm very, very excited for it. I've got a babysitter and everything.
Lovely.
Because my wife and I are going.
Date night to Scene Queen?
We're going on a date night to see Scene Queen.
Is this...
Doing pussy popping and howling a little twerkle pit.
Sure. No further questions.
Do you want to get involved in the twerkle pit?
No. I don't need it. I'm too old.
Too old. I'll be the oldest person there. Because
you absolutely will.
Because I'm nearly 40.
Yeah.
So, we have some poll results, everyone. Was Rachel and Joey actually good? No. Won with 66% of the vote.
There you go. Told you.
Are the Minions actually good? No. Won with 60%.
It's closer.
Is Bring Me to Life by Evanescence actually good? 82% voted yes.
Talking about. There's a little joke I remember that was going around. You know those things where it's like replace one word in a song with another word and change it entirely? Have you heard of those? Like change the name of a film by changing one word.
Yeah.
Like Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Gatehouse or whatever. In this case, it was change the word me in Bring Me to Life with Greg. Because then you get, wake Greg up inside. I can't wake up. Save Greg. It's very funny.
That guy is so rubbish. Genuinely terrible. Like, not only is he bad in that song.
Don't let me die here.
There
must be something more.
He's got the worst song on the album, on the Daredevil soundtrack as well. His crap band, who have to be industry plants. Like, I've got no other explanation for 12 Stones outside of they are industry plants.
There you go.
Absolute crap. And David Evans here says, hi both. On Going In Raw yesterday, Steve said that he and Larson are the only wrestling podcasters who would actually hear talk about the alien bodies that are presented to Mexican authorities, and he called out WrestleTalk specifically. However, Steve then did add that he wanted to hear your thoughts on the subject. So, what are your thoughts on the alien bodies that were presented to the Mexican authorities? Also, I'm gutted that Tegan was pulled from her match with Becky. But I guess that bit is by the by with everything else.
I also am sad for Tegan. I hope she gets another shot next week. My thoughts on the Mexican aliens that were presented to the Mexicans was it basically feels like someone accidentally stumbled in on the room where all the plastic casts of ET were were sort of left to one side, and they were like, "These look real, don't they?"
I got to be honest with you guys. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, did you not see this?
No.
So there was all this conversation. There was like Freedom of Information Act that basically said, "Oh, aliens are real" or something like that.
that was months ago, right?
Yeah. So then these people came out on, and I've only seen the pictures of this. I haven't read the stories, so I can't even speak specifically. But these people came out in front of a Mexican
12 Stones
court.
to the Nexus theme. Get out. No, they didn't.
That's broken his entire. That's shaking your foundation.
Because that's actually quite a good song.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dan, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
It's all right.
I nearly jumped out of my chair.
Yeah, no, your whole world has changed. They searched Mexican aliens and they basically presented them in front of a court.
I'm going to get really weird things if I.
Oh, you probably end up. Well, you'll end up on some form of Republican mailing list.
And I don't want that.
No, okay. So search
aliens,
Mexico.
Mexican authority.
Yeah. But basically, they were presented to a court, and it was like
fact check. Aliens not confirmed.
Yeah, but like look at the images. Image search.
Okay.
That's just Reuters aren't going to give you images.
Okay.
Image search.
Images.
Yeah. They look like ET.
Yeah.
They don't look real.
They don't look real
at all.
Yeah.
They were like, these are aliens, and I looked at it and went, all right. And then people started taking it really seriously, so I started questioning whether or not I knew what was going on. But there you go. Maybe there probably are aliens.
NASA remarks on 1,000-year-old bodies displayed in Mexico. What does NASA have to say about this?
See, the thing is,
I mean, they made up the moon landing.
People don't. Luke. People don't.
I don't believe that. By the way.
People don't come to us.
The Shining was Stanley Kubrick's admittance that he faked the moon landing.
Is that a thing? They think The Shining is his confession.
Yeah. Oh, The Shining is 100% his confession that he faked the moon landing for NASA.
I used to live with someone who thought that the moon landing was fake because Buzz Aldrin had confirmed that it was not real, and it was an Onion article. I swear to God. People don't come to the show to hear us talk about aliens. They come to the show to hear us talk about Joey and Rachel, Evanescence, and the Minions. That's what we provide. Every podcast provides its own little flavor. Even in our house, there's the grown-up conversation on the Dynamite show, and then there's us. There's the SmackDown one with all of Sept's excitement, and we have these. Everyone has different flavor, you know?
So, Stephen Larson, if you are watching, and I know you are, I don't think they're real, mate. So sorry about that. I will believe it when
an alien comes and knocks on the door and says, "Would you like to come to Scene Queen?"
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Who's older than me? And I can be like, cool. Now I'm not the oldest person there.
There you go. 7,000-year-old alien at Scene Queen confirmed.
That's going to do it for the Raw podcast.
Any more controversial things you want to say?
Pack
them in. Check the poll results.
Did you see that video that was doing the rounds on Twitter yesterday of someone who had a YouTube video that was talking about Shelley Duvall seeing the blood pouring out of the lift in The Shining?
Oh, and they said they should have CGI'd her in.
Yeah, should have CGI'd her in because that way you would know if it was real or not.
Absolutely.
And then it ends with, and this is one of the reasons why Ready Player One got it right.
I have to believe that that's a parody.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
I thought that has to be a joke.
I'm almost certain it is.
That final line at the end has to prove that is a gag.
Yeah, it's almost certainly a joke.
Yeah.
But even so, there are people out there who do think those things, and that's why culture's dead. Society is over, everybody.
It's a shame that we've got a poll running at the moment. We could have done, was the moon landing fake?
You must be stopped.
I'm going to end the poll that we do have now, though. Mid won out the poll this week. What did you think of Raw?
I can't believe that.
Thumbs in the middle, 55%,
but
with
okay.
35 going upwards. Actually, that's still pointing upwards.
Do you remember when people say that I'm like the miserable one?
No, not on these shows.
They do sometimes.
Do they?
Well, the AEW ones hate me more, but sometimes people think I'm negative Nancy, nitpicker. They call me King Nitpick, which is quite nice.
That's going to do it for this episode of the Monday Night Raw WrestleTalk Podcast. Please do press the subscribe button if you've somehow made it this far. Give us a little thumbs up as well and leave your comment down below with what you thought of the show. Thank you all so much for our wonderful live chat today. And we will see you again on Thursday with Ollie away. Myself and Tempest are going to be the new Dynamite team for the next week or so.
How exciting.
So he is quite excited.
I bet he is.
Because he quite likes watching Dynamite.
Yeah.
So that'll be on Thursday this week. And then on Saturday, it will be the SmackDown podcast. Kind of in a bit of a normal pattern at the moment until Fastlane happens.
Yeah. And Wrestle Dream all in 1 week.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, there is that. Thank you all so much for watching. I've been Luke Owen, DAD. That has been your Jam That Champion, the truth, the Professor Dan Layton. Jam that jam.